Mark Rogers TV, Week 12 of our college football predictions, coming off a pretty fine showing in Week 11, 13-5 straight up. That's not great. 11-7 though against the spread. 11-7 against the spread. 2 of 3 on our confidence picks against the spread. If you're not familiar with our confidence picks, we are 64-33. 64-33 against the spread. This is year 3 of our confidence picks. And we feel pretty good about those games, usually about 2 to 3 games per week. Let's run them down starting on Friday night. And right off the bat, a confidence pick. We've got UCLA taking on Washington in Los Angeles. We love what the Bruins do against everybody else, against Oregon and Stanford. They've been impressive and will be again on Friday night at home. UCLA just a 2.5-point favorite. They will cover against Washington again in a confidence pick. All right, we've got Alabama and Mississippi State. The Tide is number 1 in the country. They are a 23.5-point favorite against Mississippi State, and that's not nearly enough. Bama dominant against LSU last week will not let down. Their coach, Nick Saban, will not let it happen. And the Tide covers 23.5 at Scott Field against Mississippi State. We got Florida State taking on Syracuse, and the Noles 37.5-point favorites against the Cuse. The Noles, of course, looking toward the ACC championship game and beyond. And they will pick a number in this game, and they will cover 37.5. We are not making a confidence pick here. It is just too large of a spread. The Noles could certainly cover it, and we predict them too, but not a confidence play here. That spread just a little bit too large. Ohio State ditto against Illinois. 32.5-point spread there. The Buckeyes will cover at Illinois. The Buckeyes playing much better football in recent weeks against some poor competition in the Big Ten. And that schedule will not do them any favors in the BCS until they hit Michigan and most likely Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. All right, Stanford and USC, a really good football game possibly here with the Cardinal coming off the biggest win possibly of the season in college football, upsetting Oregon at home on a Thursday night. So they've had about 10 days to prepare for USC. The Trojans with a 4-1 record under Coach Orgeron. Coach O doing well and trying to make a claim for the head coaching spot there in Los Angeles. And we like a pretty good football game here, but the Cardinal much stronger and deeper. The scholarship reductions at USC still taking a toll, although the frontline talent is very even on both sides of the football in this matchup. Good football game here. The Cardinal win it, and they cover the 3.5 points against USC. Baylor and Texas Tech. Okay, Texas Tech was an undefeated football team 3 weeks ago. Now they've got 3 losses. Baylor, we know, cleared the first hurdle, supposed hurdle in the Big 12 in crushing Oklahoma at home 41-12. We like Baylor to win handily, but take Texas Tech in the 28 points here. Again, Texas Tech probably one of the 30 or 35 best teams in the country, maybe not quite that high. Taking on a Baylor team that we know that they're ranked 4th in the BCS, but this Baylor team's about top 15 to 20 in the country, maybe. I know I'm going to have some haters out there for making that statement, an undefeated football team that's barely top 20, but that's what I think about Baylor. They do win handily, but take Texas Tech plus the 28.5. All right, actually 28 straight on that game. Oregon and Utah, the Ducks, how will they rebound after their season's kind of been crushed? They lost out on the BCS championship game and the Pac-12 championship game most likely, all in 1 week. They take on the Utah Utes at home. They've had 10 days to lick their wounds, and the Ducks get it done against the Utes. And, of course, they're so explosive on offense, especially against a marginal Utah defense. And the Ducks win it and cover 27, and they shake their heads and wonder how this Utah team defeated the Stanford Cardinal. Okay, we've also got South Carolina and taking on Florida. This is typically one of the key games in the SEC Eastern Division. Well, it is still for the Gamecocks as they hope some dominoes fall in their way, and they get Missouri to fall because they won that head-to-head matchup, but they still need Mizzou to lose a game. You've got Florida, 12.5-point underdog against South Carolina, and we like the Gamecocks because the Gators just cannot score, and they are a mess with injuries and questions concerning their coach's future, Will Muschamp. All right, we've got Michigan State taking on Nebraska. This is the game of the year thus far in the Big Ten, certainly in that division. With the Spartans undefeated in the Big Ten, Nebraska has rebounded from an early loss against Minnesota in Big Ten play, gotten back into it. We like Michigan State minus 5.5 at Nebraska. This Michigan State team is very undervalued. Very undervalued. This is one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in college football. I know that they're ranked number 1 statistically, but legitimately, they are a top 3 to 5 defense in college football. Look anywhere. The offense is getting better, and against that Nebraska defense, forget the Michigan score. The Nebraska defense is pretty bad. Michigan State will find some running room and some plays in the passing game. They will defeat Nebraska minus 5.5 points. Okay, we got Central Florida taking on Temple. And, of course, Central Florida controls its destiny to go to a BCS bowl game, and they will get the job done against the Owls and cover 16 points. Okay, we've got Oklahoma taking on Iowa State. The Sooners, again, drubbed against Baylor. This program has certainly taken a tumble in recent years. It's now just a top 20 program, not a top 5 program, as it was through most of the 2000s. And Iowa State will not keep it close. Sooners come out, and despite the issues on offense, Iowa State's been not just the record horrible. I heard Bob Stoops say that they've been competitive in every game. 71-7 against Baylor, competitive in every game. All right, Oklahoma wins it and covers 24 points there. Okay, Louisville and Houston. The Cougars could have taken over the driver's seat in the America Conference against Central Florida, but they lost that game. But a close football game. The Cougars played well on the road against Central Florida, the class of the conference, because of their win against Louisville. Cardinals win it, but we like the Cougars to play it close once again this week. They're getting 16 points, so take Houston plus the 16 against Louisville and Teddy Bridgewater. All right, more confidence picks coming up right here. Arizona State taking on Oregon State. We know the Sun Devils are ultra talented and are in the lead position for the South Division Championship to take on most likely Stanford in the Pac-12 Championship game. Arizona State giving 14 points in this game against the Beavers. The Beavers took Stanford to the final possession. We know that was at home, but since they lost that first non-conference game of the season in a shootout, they've played much better. We know they've got 2 consecutive losses, but again, one of those against Stanford in a hotly contested game. We like Arizona State to win the game straight up at home, but Oregon State's going to keep it close. Take the 14 in a confidence pick, Beavers and the Sun Devils. Okay, we got Wisconsin and Indiana as we step back into Big Ten play. Wisconsin undervalued again. Consider the refs ripped them off in attempting a game-winning field goal at Arizona State. Their only other loss was at Columbus against one of the 2 or 3 best football teams in America. Wisconsin losing only that game by 7 points. So we like Wisconsin to win big. Indiana's going to score points, though, and Wisconsin will probably let up some points as they have. Check out the Illinois score. The Badgers so much a better football team, but they gave up some garbage points late in that game against Illinois. Ditto here, so take the Hoosiers plus the 24 against Wisconsin, but the Badgers win easily. Duke, Miami. Who would have thought it after Florida State Clemson, the game of the year in the ACC? The winner will be in control of its fate to get to the ACC championship game, to lose, or to play Florida State. And we like the upset here, the slight upset. This would have been a pretty major upset a couple weeks ago, but Miami's shown us, minus Duke Johnson and plus some decent opponents on the schedule, that it's really not a top 5, top 10 football team. They were ranked to number 7 when they headed to Florida State, got drubbed there, looked bad against Virginia Tech at home last weekend. So we really like what Duke's got going. We think Miami is not feeling really good about its football team right now. The Canes do have the better talent, but we like the Blue Devils at home plus the 3.5 points, and we're going to take them straight up to pull off the upset. Take Duke plus 3.5 points. 2 more picks and 2 very important football games. First in the Big 12 with Oklahoma State taking on Texas. The Longhorns, despite Baylor's undefeated record overall and Texas losing twice out of conference, tied with Baylor right now for the Big 12 championship. Okay, that game will get underway the last week of the season, so Texas needs to win out to continue to keep pace with Baylor, assuming the Bears get the job done against the Red Raiders. We like Oklahoma State to pull off what's actually not an upset. They're at home. They're going to win the football game against Texas. We like it razor close. So this is a bit of a hedge play here, taking Oklahoma State to win the game against Texas, but take the Longhorns plus 3.5 points in that one. And finally, what we expect to be an extremely entertaining football game on the Plains. You got Georgia and Auburn, the South's oldest rivalry. We posted a video previewing this football game, Georgia and Auburn. It should be an interesting one. Georgia was the top 5 team and BCS contender to start the season. They, of course, got hit and ravaged with injuries, especially on offense. Lost Todd Gurley, most notably, and a lot of wide receivers. Lost 3 football games. And then it's been Auburn that has been the surprise of college football, especially in the SEC at 9-1. And they've got a clear path, not an easy path, but a clear path to the SEC championship game. They control their fate, but it starts with Georgia. So you got the Bulldogs and Auburn, and we like the Bulldogs in a slight upset on the Plains at Jordan-Hare Stadium against the Auburn Tigers, because although Auburn's a great story, one-dimensional on offense, threw 7 passes last week, 9 the week before, and we're talking about bubble screens and we're talking about slip screens, can't get the ball downfield, and Auburn just runs the football. Now, Georgia's had issues on defense, but they stopped the run fairly well, and they're 4th in the SEC in rush defense, and of course they're getting their playmakers back on offense, and Todd Gurley's been running like Todd Gurley the past 3 to 4 weeks. So we take Georgia in the upset straight up, plus we'll also take the 3.5 points as well. Those are our picks for Week 12 in college football. Huge games all over the place as we wind down to rivalry weekend, that final weekend of November. Now we'd like to hear your picks. Where did I miss it? Let us know right here on Mark Rogers TV.